Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Josh Zodiac Podcast about wrestling, pop cultures, movies, and whatever the fuck we want to talk about. That being said, I would like to introduce my co-host tonight. He is my brother, one of my brothers from another mother, Mr. Ben DeLeon. Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, man. I am excited. About time you get this thing going. And
I know we've had some hiccups, but you know what?
Life seems to get in the way, man.
But you know what? I'd rather not sit on it another week, and we will have the other co-host on next time, I promise. But for now, it'll be just you and me going for this particular episode. We do have a couple of topics, but first, I will let you introduce yourself to the public here.
Well, my name is Ben DeLeon. I am the content creator at the Recycle Corn Podcast. Founded the podcast. I run the podcast. I produce a podcast. I finance a podcast. All of the stuff's about the podcast. And if something, sucks about the podcast, you can blame that on Scuba since he's not here to defend himself. So it's his fault for being born,
Yeah,
I wasn't 42 years ago around this time. So, he has nobody to blame but his parents. So
Truth. And you are also, like myself, we are part of the commentary team on All Content Entertainment, which is a local wrestling organization down in Corpus Christi, Texas. Let's talk about your name for your commentary on All Content Entertainment.
Yeah, see, that was a weird thing that happened with that. Scuba, we were getting ready to do commentary, and I was expecting to go in with just my regular name. And then Scuba decided to introduce me as Sir Benjamin for whatever reason. So I was ever since then, people are like, "Oh, you're Sir Benjamin." I'm like, that's me. But I didn't really have any say over what my name was going to be.
Fair enough.
Scuba picked it, but, he's one of the guys in charge. So who am I to say no?
That's a good point. That's a lot better than where mine came from, because I initially was doing commentary for All Content as the Josh Zodiac, which I was a talent for. And we had heard the first show, they had commentary for it. And to be real, the commentary guy on that just was horrible. He just was not great. And I went to the owner of the company and said, "Hey, the commentary kind of sucked on that first episode. Would you mind if I took over commentary?" And he's like, yeah, we'll do. And he and I did it together. I forget what his name was, because he had a different name as well. And I was going as the Josh Zodiac. And after a while, I'm like, it makes no sense for me to do commentary as that name and then doing wrestling as that name. So I had to create yet another character for the company. So I went to a name that I have loved since 1998 from a movie called Can't Hardly Wait, Trip McNeely, a name that has been in my head for over 20 years. I love that name. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to do commentary, I'm going to do it with that name. And it's an obscure reference. No one's ever called me like, "Oh, I remember that from that movie," because it's not a popular movie, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But then again, people do know, "Oh, you're the Josh Zodiac," or "Oh, you're that Zodiac guy." I'm like, well, you need to put the whole name on there. Put some respect on my name when you throw it out there. But, it is what it is. But so to close that out, you pretty much had no say-so in your name, and I pretty much stole something. So, yeah, that works for me.
Kind of like what we do. But you know what? I got back at Scuba because when he wanted to do commentary with us, those times that he does, he goes, "I can't think of a name." So I was like, "Well, how about Dick Bigums?" So he's like, "All right, cool. I'm gonna roll with that." So
turnabout's fair play.
Yeah,
it really is.
So he picked my name and I picked his. I don't know why I landed on that. Like, that was the first thing to come to mind, but I was like, all right, here we go.
But you know what? He owns it, and that's what makes it cool, is that he's like, you know what? The hell with it. I'm going to own that name, and he does. And it's a lot of fun when he's doing commentary with us. He doesn't do it with us all the time, but when he does, it's definitely a lot of fun to do it with him.
Yeah, a lot more fun. Oh, he's a little bit more polished on the microphone than we are, but I think that adds to our charm.
He's been doing the shit on the mic for so long now that he's got the experience, and you and I are like, I don't know. Hi, how you doing? We're just winging it the whole time, and he's sitting there like, hello everyone, and welcome to the just doing this thing, but he's been doing it, at the bar for so long that it just comes second nature to him, and I'm sure there will be a day where you and I will be like at that point, but we'll probably be like 100 and the podcast will be gone by then anyway.
Right.
So it won't matter. So moving on, as we've talking about wrestling and everything, you and I are both avid WWE wrestling fans. And I'm just curious, what is it that got you into wrestling in general?
Well, honestly, it was, and I know it's going to sound, corny, whatever, but it was Hulk Hogan. Back in the when wrestlers were seen as like superheroes, like the Rock and Wrestling cartoon and all that, and Mr. T, Ultimate Warrior. I mean, I remember the first time I saw the Ultimate Warrior, and I was there, shoelaces around my arms and all that little. He's there with his huge arms, and I got these little sticks with strings around him, and I'm just
nice.
The Ultimate Warrior.
Nah, and, that's funny.
I always wanted to be big and strong, whatever, but back then I couldn't gain any weight to save my life, and now I think it all caught up to me. So
yeah, I had the same problem growing up too, but so Hulk Hogan was the one that got you, saying your prayers, taking your vitamins, and all that. Good shit, man, that he was preaching.
I memorized the I Am a Real American song, and I learned how to play it on guitar and everything.
Oh wow! So you went to a whole new level with that. Okay.
Oh yeah. I was a hardcore Hogan mark. And then, it turns out he's not really such a nice guy after all. I mean,
I know.
Said some pretty messed up stuff, and I'm like, come on, Terry. Like, you see, that was Terry. That wasn't Hulk Hogan.
No, it's the same person. Let's just be real. Come on. For me, and this was right after WrestleMania in like 85, 86. I'm flipping the channels at home. We had cable growing up back then. And it was on a Sunday. And I'm just flipping channels looking for something to watch. And I came across the USA Network when they used to show Superstars. And that was the outlet that we had at the time, just that 1 hour show. And they would show a couple of, some of the matches from house shows and stuff like that. And none other than the Macho Man, Randy Savage, was on there cutting a promo. And he was all decked out. He had the glasses and that hat. And just the way he talked, he was so slow, articulate, and he sounded like he had something to say. And again, like you said, they were like superheroes. So I started watching like, wow, this is pretty cool. Of course, my mom was like, oh no. She already knows. Like, oh crap, he discovered wrestling. I was hoping he wouldn't. So the one rule that she had was, you know what, you can watch it. Just don't do any of that crap to your brothers, your two younger brothers. And I'm like, okay.
I'm like, well, then why did you even have more kids if I can't do these things?
I can't practice a dragon sleeper on myself. I got to have a younger person who's smaller than me that will do what I say because I'm bigger than them.
I tricked my older brother into letting me get him in a figure 4. And,
Jesus.
Man, he started screaming like right away, and I was all, this thing works.
It's funny because my the oldest of my two younger brothers, he's into it hardcore, at least he was. And one day he got me in the Sting, the DDT that Sting would do, like the Scorpion Death Drop or whatever it was called, in our living room and dropped me. And we had, okay, this is going to date me a little bit here, but we had some shag carpet in the living room and we had hardwood floors underneath. Well, when he put me in that move, he didn't brace me enough. So I hit face planted the ground, wham, and I was out, like knocked out cold.
Seriously?
Like he legit thought he killed me. He was, and my parents weren't home.
Damn.
My grandmother was babysitting us, but she was in the other room. So she heard the thud and ran in, and I'm just laying there on the ground, not moving. And she's like, "What?" My grandmother never cussed. And she's like, "What in the hell did you do to him?" And my brother's like, "Oh, I put him in a wrestling move, and I think I killed him." And then I woke up. and I looked around, and I had this big fucking knot in the middle of my forehead where I hit the ground. And I'm like, "Oh, you were so fucking dead right now," because I just was doing this, and I felt like the knot was at least a good inch and a half off my head.
Dang.
And I'm like, "Oh, I am gonna fucking kill you now." And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. No, you're not supposed to just fall. You're supposed to brace me or not have my head sticking out that far." So I did what any brother would have done. I punched him in the fucking dick. So wham, really hard. And he's like, to this day, he's like, "I didn't deserve that." I'm like, "Dude, you knocked me out for 10 minutes. You deserved every bit of it." So,
yeah, that sounds like some of the stuff my brother and I would get into.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where my mom didn't find out about that till much, much later. And she's like, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" I said, "Because you'd have punished me for it." He said, "Well, you're the oldest. You should know better." Like, he's the one that did it. I just let him do it. I just thought he'd be more careful about it. He was just like, "Nope, bloop, done."
Yeah, one time I actually got into a real fight, and this guy came rushing at me with his head down. So, I got him in a front face lock, and I did the only thing that I knew how to do at that age, which was a DDT, the official move of all content. And of course we were fighting on concrete at the middle school, and I felt on the ground when his head connected with the concrete. You know what I mean? That thud.
Ooh.
And because like when I picked my feet up and I pulled back and I put a little more, stank on it, whatever. So I drove that dude's head into the ground. Same thing. He went out. And as he went out, because his friends were around, because basically they were ganging up on me. So when he ran at me, I hit him with that DDT, and then he was out. And so I stood up, and his friends were looking at me with their eyes all wide. And I was looking at them with my eyes all wide because there was 4 of them, and there was only 1 of me. And I just took off running. So it's like I knocked their friend out with a DDT, and I took off running. And, ever since then, I was on their hit list. Anytime they was able to get me alone, they wanted to fight, but I was just slowly picking them apart. I mean, I was scared shitless of these people. I mean, they were so much bigger than me, but one by one, I was actually beating them by using wrestling moves. Like one guy, nice. I put him to sleep with a sleeper hold. I didn't realize at the time it was basically a rear naked choke. Like I said, one guy with the DDT, another guy, he threw a punch and I grabbed his arm over a rail, and I did, the where you yank the arm and, like I said, try to pull the shoulder out. Well, I did that and his shoulder really did pop out. So, ouch. But again, these guys were ganging up on me, and they got some licks in here and there. I wound up with a messed up nose and all that stuff, whatever. But, wrestling actually saved my life in a situation like that, because I'm pretty sure that those guys would have messed me up really bad.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Damn. So what middle school was it?
Cunningham.
I was trying to get a mental image of where you were. I figured it was either Cunningham or Martin. I wasn't sure.
No,
no,
I wasn't tough enough to go to Martin.
Yeah, Martin is not for the faint of heart. I went to South Park, so yeah, that was enough fun for itself.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It's funny you talk about that. The house that I lived at, our backyard over by Fannin Elementary, there was this big ass baseball park and then this big ass field. In the back there, me and my brothers and the neighborhood kids had all found a bunch of old mattresses, and we put them together to make a ring, quote unquote. And they would have backyard wrestling back there, and we even had the old winged eagle belt, but it was all plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I held that belt till I left in the military. Nobody could. They were all younger than me, and they're like, "We want to fight you." I'm like, "Well, come on!" And I kept power bombing them, or I put them in a submission move, and they would tap out. I'm like, I'd be willing to let y'all have it, but y'all got to put some work on it. I'm not just going to give it to you.
Right.
This isn't scripted. We're just having fun. And like the day before I left, I'm like, yeah, I just dropped the title. Y'all fight over it now. It's not my problem anymore. So, I was like 21 at the time, and these kids are like 14, 15 years old.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I get it. I thought you were going to say like you're 17 and they're 14 or whatever, but
Nope. I was 21, legal drinking age, and these kids weren't even old enough to get a library card yet. So, yeah. Talking about WWE, you and I did a joint podcast live reaction to Elimination Chamber, which was in Perth, Australia. Of course, we didn't watch it live because it was at 2 a.m, and I wasn't going to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch that. Part of me wish we had, actually, because it was actually a pretty damn good show. I was actually quite impressed.
Yeah,
in the past, they really haven't. The shows the PLEs especially have been kind of lackluster, but ever since the buyout with I forget the name of the company,
TKO,
with them and Vince being gone and Triple H pretty much taking the helm, the product has gotten a lot better.
Yeah, it has.
So it's gotten way better. Yeah.
Well, did you see that Triple H won Booker of the Year?
No, I did not.
Yeah,
I did not see that.
And which is actually pretty significant considering Tony Khan has won it, I think, the last 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. And, for his work with AEW. And he was really proud of that, So he was, this is a fan award. And I'm really proud of this one. And then, this time he got beat by Triple H. And I was like, man, that's pretty significant. That shows, how much of the quality has gone up under Triple H, as opposed to when Vince was still, in charge. So it does show that, that you can do, not always give the fans exactly what they want, but you can do it in a way to where they appreciate the storyline and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think Triple H is really good at. They don't call him the cerebral assassin for nothing. He's very intelligent. So I like what he's doing.
It's funny you talk about giving the fans what they want, because I was on TikTok earlier before I was making dinner, and there was this guy that was like, "Well, how are you going to talk about giving Liv Morgan her revenge story against Rhea Ripley, but yet you give the match to Becky? # We want Liv." And I'm like, I know people love Liv Morgan. I get it. But she doesn't have the draw that Becky Lynch has. And I know it's for me, that's kind of biased, but it's fucking true. Becky Lynch, ever since Nia Jax clocked her in the nose and broke her face, that was when Becky went from a star to a superstar. And to me, it just makes more sense to have Becky dethrone Rhea versus Liv. Liv will have her time, but I just don't think Liv, when she had her title run, it wasn't anything special.
I don't know.
That's just my opinion, though. I mean, I could be wrong, but it didn't. I know there are people that are more of a fan of Liv Morgan than I am. So I'm curious what your take is about that.
Well, I mean, I like Liv Morgan. I think she's awesome to look at. She's gotten a lot better technically than when she first debuted with the Riot Squad, and I've gone and watched some of her matches before that, and if you were to rate them, I would say most of the matches have been within B or C quality matches,
Yeah.
and she has come a long way. You know, I would even say Elimination Chamber was, you know, an A+ match.
Yeah.
You know, the
Agreed.
way it went about where she lost. I mean, okay, yeah, it does make more sense because Becky does have the most recent storyline with Rhea, but I don't
Hmm.
think she's going to be the one to dethrone her. I think that, you know, if they're trying to build up the Liv Morgan storyline, I think something's going to happen with Liv Morgan during that match where it's either going to cost her the match or, you know, afterwards Liv is going to challenge her, you know, saying like, okay, you held on to the belt, now it's my turn, you know.
Yeah. They can still make that a triple threat match though too. I mean, there's my opinion on that was that they're going to find a way to make Nia Jax a part of that match between whoever won the chamber and Rhea. And now that Rhea beat her clean, there was no outside help. There was no Dominic Mysterio out there to help her out, which
Mm-hmm.
makes her a little bit stronger on the booking. Um, but that being said, I still think they're going to find a way to put either Nia Jax or Liv Morgan in that match and make it a triple threat, which is fine because you could have that to where whoever wins the match pins not Rhea, but whoever the other opponent is, pins them. That way, yeah, Rhea loses the title, but she still comes out as a strong character because she did not get pinned. She didn't lose the belt. Well, she lost the belt, but she wasn't the one that got pinned or
Right.
submitted for it. So, I mean, Rhea Ripley is up there with Becky as far as the most popular female in the company, by far. I mean, Rhea's not far behind her. And a year ago, if you had told me that was the case, I would have laughed at you. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way. I mean, Rhea's popular, but she's not at that level. And what a difference a year makes because
Yeah.
now she is.
Ever
Yeah.
since she aligned herself with the Judgment Day, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I hate to say it, ever since the storyline with Dominic Mysterio, she's become more and more popular. Excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the mommy, you know, thing going on,
Yeah.
and it's just brought her up to a whole new level. And I think a lot of it also has to do with what goes on behind the scenes, like with Kathy Kelly and
Mm-hmm.
you know, that whole drama that was going on there. You know, saying that you know they're infatuated with each other, and you know there's, you know, that kind of, you know, will they won't they type thing, you know, and which is kind of, you know, if 10 years ago you'd been like, hey, there's kind of a implied lesbian storyline going on in WWE programming, people would have like, oh, that's blasphemy. But now it's like, yeah, who cares, like two hot girls, you know, going, you know, fawning over each other, like that's hot, you know. But
Yeah.
it's just shows again the power of Rhea Ripley, where she could do stuff like that and
Mm-hmm.
make it work.
But one thing that people may have forgotten about is post Attitude Era, back when back when SmackDown was still kind of new, they did have a female tag team called the Lesbians. It didn't last long, but it was there. And no matter how hard WWE tries to hide shit, it still surfaces. You know, they've tried to hide the whole Chris Benoit fiasco, which is a whole other topic down the road. The whole Mickey James grabbing Trish's crotch and then licking her fingers, that's been wiped off the map. Like, but if you look on YouTube, you can find it. And then, of course, this female tag team, before there was ever a female tag team division, there's these two females called the Lesbians. And again, they didn't last very long. But then again, you know, they weren't well known. If that had been like Lita and Trish Stratus, it might have had some weight to it, but it was just two unknowns. And if something like that were to happen between Rhea and Kathy Kelly now with social media, I think it would blow up. But, you know, we live in an age now where everybody gets offended over everything. You know, you can't really have an opinion about something with people going, "Oh my God, that's so offensive. I'm gonna try to cancel culture you." I'm like, no, just leave it alone. There's no harm meant by it. And those two are just having fun. And I've seen what they do on TikTok and on X, formerly known as Twitter. And I'm like, oh, it's just harmless fun. It's just two people having fun. They're not hurting nobody. They're blowing off steam after, a long night of, wrestling or commentating or whatever it is they're doing. So,
you know what? I just had to look it up, and yeah, the HLA, the lesbians.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh my God.
And again, they're two unknowns. They're two unknown women. I don't even remember their names. I just remember their tag team name.
Yeah, that's freaking hilarious, man. Man, Vince is wild. But going back to the whole triple threat thing, I think that was a lot more prevalent under Vince McMahon. I don't know. I haven't really paid attention too much about is Triple H, keen to be throwing triple threat matches around like they're, as casually as Vince did. Vince was any little thing was a triple threat. And now it seems like Triple H is trying to make it more like, okay, when a triple threat happens, it actually means something.
Yeah.
So
in the case of the Rhea Ripley Becky Lynch thing, I think it makes sense to have either Liv Morgan or Nia Jax in that, or I'll take it a step further, make it a fatal four-way.
I mean, that I would say that if they're trying to close out all of those storylines at once, so they could say like, okay, yeah, because like I said, I don't see them taking the title off of Rhea anytime soon. So I think what'll probably happen if they do something like that, put Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch in there, they're gonna have. Because Becky, the whole reason Becky is challenging Rhea is because she said, I think you're better than me, but I need to prove to myself that I still have what it takes. So
yeah,
I think if Rhea was able to put a stamp on the Becky Lynch thing, say, no, I am better than you. And it's like Becky handing the torch to Rhea saying, okay, I was the man in my generation. Now this is the new generation. Go ahead. Take it from here. I think that's cool. But then if you have the Liv Morgan revenge storyline and she beats her, Rhea beats Liv also, that's putting a stamp on that one saying like, hey, and maybe even Rhea's like, hey, we don't have to like each other, but we just, have to coexist. Yeah. I could see that happening. And then Jade Cargill enters the picture.
Yeah. And she hasn't done anything yet.
Right.
She's
so I think, it
Yeah.
kind of goes against what you were saying about not putting somebody into the title picture right away. But with what she's done, especially like at the Rumble, I think there is a justification for putting her into that title picture right away.
Or at least put her in the match. She's not going to go over, but at least put her in the match. Or, you know what? Put her with a match against Nia Jax, because Nia Jax, she picked her up by herself and threw her over the top rope. Nia Jax weighs over 270 pounds, and she's not a short. She's like 6'2". She's almost my fucking height. So for a woman of that caliber to be picked up by someone like Jade, I could see them having a legit match between each other. That it would look good.
Yeah.
But I don't think she should be put in the title picture yet. Maybe 6 months down the road, maybe see how it goes. Kind of let her get. Because I don't know how true this is, but they were talking about how they weren't impressed with what she was doing in the ring. I guess AEW is a little more relaxed, I guess, on what they do and what they don't do. And they're like, we're not impressed. We want you to work in the Performance Center a little bit longer before we throw you out to the wolves and put you in the ring.
Jericho has gone, has said multiple times on his podcast, AEW, there are no reins on you. You can do whatever the hell you want as long as it makes sense for that storyline. So he said that a lot of the WWE talent, when they come over and they're like, oh, well, who do we talk to run by, run through our match and whatever? And they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, well, who do we talk to get clearance to do this move or that move? And they're like, you're an adult, you know what you're doing. You're a professional. Do whatever you feel is right. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why he was saying that when people come over there, they feel that so like it's like a weight lifted off their chest because they don't have to report to anybody. They're the ones in control of what they do, what they say, and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty cool, but also very dangerous because there's
Yeah.
some wrestlers who overestimate their abilities and then wind up hurting themselves.
Yep. Or the other person they're wrestling with. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look what happened recently with Jeff Hardy. You know what I mean? He took that
Yeah.
knee to the
That
face.
was bad. Yeah.
Like, was a moonsault. He caught that knee to the head. I mean, he was messed up. Like, so,
Mm-hmm. Oh
um,
yeah.
that's why I said it's a good thing. It's a bad thing. WWE has a very safe style. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's why a lot of the wrestlers never get hurt, but there are some that do. I mean, look at Seth Rollins, injury after injury, but his style is more of a stronger style than what they're, normally would allow other people to do.
Mm-hmm. And another example of that would be CM Punk, because back in his independent days a long time ago, his finishing move was called the Pepsi Plunge. It was a pedigree off the top rope. I've never seen it live, but I've seen video of it on YouTube, but it's fucking brutal. So when he went to WWE back when it was ECW, I'm pretty sure Triple H was like, nah, only person that can do that move, pedigree is me. And I get that. You don't want to steal somebody's move unless you get permission, obviously. But that's another example of you could hurt somebody by putting them in that move, especially if you don't prepare for it properly or have the guy set up correctly. You could really fuck him up really bad. That ring is very unforgiving. So it's not like there's padding underneath. There's some padding, but at the end of the day, you're on a bunch of 2x4s or 4x4s and
Yeah.
shit. So yeah, it's still hard. It's still gonna hurt. It's just if you don't practice it and take the full responsibility of it, you could hurt yourself or the other person or both of you. That's happened too.
Yeah.
We saw that at All Content with Gavin and Astro.
Yeah.
He went for that Styles Clash, and Gavin's foot caught him right in the nose, full force, and fucked up his nose. They had to shorten the match a little bit because he was just bleeding out his ass at that point. So, a little off topic there. I'll go on to the men's Elimination Chamber match, which, in all honesty, I thought the women's chamber match was better than the men's. But
yeah, it definitely was better.
it was better, but at the same time, I get why they're trying to do the whole Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins because those two have had heat for a while. I just was not a fan of the way they took out LA Knight. That's just setting him up for the rivalry with AJ Styles. They've been sitting on LA Knight for a while now. They had it to where he was going to take on Roman Reigns for the title. He came close, didn't win. And then the U.S. title, that didn't happen. I'm like, when are they going to put a belt on this guy? This guy needs to have gold around his waist. And he is, with the exception of Seth Rollins, he's probably the most popular male superstar in the company right now. And a year ago, you couldn't have said that because he was kind of, low level guy on the card. Now he's almost at main event status. So
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they should put at least an IC belt or the US belt on him for now, or should they put the big title on him sometime soon?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say. I would like to see what he can do with the major title, but I don't know if he's really right for the world title just yet. I know he's not getting any younger, so there's always a give people what they want, but is he going to be the guy to be putting asses in seats, to be selling the merch and all that for a long time to come? So does it financially, make sense to do that, or is it just good for the storyline? Because it's a business first and foremost. So
Yeah, agreed.
like I said, I would like to see what he could do with like a U.S. title run. Have him take it off of Logan Paul, or
Yeah.
at least give him a shot with a major title to see what he can do with it. If he can make that title more prestigious, where people dude, the freaking U.S. Championship, that's the belt that I want. Then yeah, I would say, give him a shot at the world belt. See what he could do with it.
See, there was a time when the U.S. belt, when Cena had it, when he would issue the open challenge, that made that the workhorse title, and it was even above the Intercontinental, which has always been the number 2 belt in the company.
Yeah.
If you got a shot, if you held the Intercontinental belt and you lost it, a main event shot at the big belt was not far behind. Look at the Ultimate Warrior. That's a good example of that. But
wasn't he the first double champion in WWE?
Yeah, I think he was the first double champion.
But
in
he
WWE.
did have to drop the Intercontinental title after he won the world belt.
Yeah, he did. He dropped it. He did drop it. I don't remember the storyline behind that. If they had a tournament or something like that, they probably did. That's usually what they do when a belt gets relinquished like that. They have a tournament and they determine a new champion. But I would like to see LA Knight dethrone Gunther. That would be, the storyline doesn't make any sense, but the person, either LA Knight and he's been gone for a minute too. I'd like to see Sheamus come back and dethrone Gunther because they have some history. So it would make sense to at least put Sheamus in that match with him. And if Sheamus were to win said Intercontinental title, that would make him a Grand Slam champion because he's never held the IC belt before.
Yeah, which is weird considering all of the other belts that he's won.
Yep, he's even won King of the Ring.
Yeah, that's something you don't even see anymore.
No, they don't even do that anymore. Or they probably should bring that back because that was such a fun pay-per-view or PLE to watch. And for those that may or may not know, that is where Stone Cold Steve Austin was born, was King of the Ring in '96 when he beat Jake the Snake Roberts and cut that promo that launched 1 billion T-shirts. Everybody had to have an Austin 316 shirt after that during the height of the Monday Night Wars. But I'm not sure if I'm okay with Drew McIntyre going to WrestleMania against Seth Rollins. But I do know Drew's contract is coming up on expiring sometime soon. So maybe they're doing this to make him happy, to make him want to stay where he's at versus go to, God forbid, TNA or AEW.
Yeah.
Or even New Japan.
I don't know. I don't see Drew leaving anytime soon, but I have seen weirder things. I thought Edge was going to retire WWE, and look where he's at now. So
yeah, he doesn't. I've watched a couple of clips of him over there. He doesn't look happy. He's not the same as he was here at WWE. But sometimes the grass is greener where you were and not on the other side. But sometimes you have to learn the hard way. So we'll just see how that goes. But moving on here, we were talking about the Women's Elimination Chamber. What would be your Mount Rushmore of women in wrestling? And that's any promotion of wrestling.
Any promotion.
They don't have to be a wrestler. They can be a valet or a manager or whatever. Just women in professional wrestling.
Well, we kind of brushed this subject before, and I've had a little bit of time to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say first and foremost, I would have to put China on there.
Okay.
And it's because China did a lot for women that really hadn't been seen. She's a 2-time Intercontinental Championship, holder. She's the only woman to ever won the Intercontinental title. Sheamus hasn't even won the Intercontinental title.
Yeah.
So that's pretty badass on its own.
And she was also the first woman in the men's rumble.
right, and
Yeah.
she's done a lot. I mean, granted, things didn't end well for her, and
No, they did not. No.
you know, which is really sad. But she deserves to be there. She deserves to, for what she did, and you know the barriers that she broke down. She deserves to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I would also have to say Trish Stratus. As much as I, you know, am reluctant to admit it because I never really like. Yeah, she was hot, but I was all like, she's not really a wrestler. But then she became a wrestler.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I'm like, man, like it's kind of hard to deny the things that Trish Stratus has done.
And Lita too. I mean, Trish couldn't have done it without Lita. Let's give credit where credit's due.
I mean, you know, yeah, but you kind of, if you want to put them both on there, like, but that's, you know, already what, 3 people, like, but I would say Trish a little bit more than Lita, just because of, you know, Lita was already kind of a wrestler when she came into the company.
It's true. Yeah.
Whereas Trish pretty much learned on the job.
Yeah. She started out as a valet manager, and then she started learning the craft, and then ended up becoming, you know, the Hall of Famer that she is now. So, yeah.
And then, of course, I would go Alundra Blaze, a.k.a. Medusa.
Oh, wow. Oh, shit.
I mean, if you think about, you know, controversial moments on wrestling TV, what she did to that title.
Oh, yeah, Nitro. I remember that. That was, yeah.
So, I mean, she pretty much dominated the women's division in the 90s. I mean,
to be fair, though, there really wasn't much of a women's division back then either. It was very far, and it's kind of like how the all content roster is now. There's 2 females, and that was it. You know, but you know what? She was controversial, so I could see why you'd put her on the list.
Well, and also she was the WCW Cruiserweight Champion. You know what I mean? So she was another woman to win a men's championship. You know, She also won the 24/7 championship. So, you know, and then also 3-time women's champion. So I mean, she's done a lot. I think she deserves to be on there. And then of course, one of my personal favorites from back in the day is the Fabulous Moolah.
Ooh.
And I mean, come on, where would wrestling be without the Fabulous Moolah and Wendy Richter and, you know, those women back then who kept that title in the spotlight for people, you know, little girls to like, you know, one day I want to, you know, hold that belt or do something like that. And now, like I said, the level of athlete coming into the WWE. I mean, you have elite level athletes coming in here and doing some incredible things in the ring. And it's just kind of hard to deny like what the women have become. And, you know, we're both saying that the women's elimination chamber was better than the men's. A lot of women's matches have been better than the men's lately. So
agreed. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of hard to pick just 4, but those are mine. So
you said China, Medusa,
Trish Stratus,
and
the
Fabulous Moolah. Okay, that's a solid list right there. I like that. For my Mount Rushmore, I have to start off with the first woman of wrestling, and that is Miss Elizabeth. May she rest in peace. As a 12-year-old boy, as a pre-pubescent boy, the only other woman in my mind at that time that was hotter than Miss Elizabeth was Farrah Fawcett. And Farrah Fawcett, being from Corpus, she was just a fucking icon. But for Elizabeth, you know, with all the crap that went on with her and Macho Man, and then she helped start the Mega Powers with Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage, you know, she just was she was a goddess among men. She really was. and it's just tragic what happened to her. She left us a little too soon. But I definitely would have her on my Mount Rushmore. Second, and this is in no particular order, obviously. I got to put Becky Lynch on there. I've loved Becky Lynch since the first time I saw her as the dancing jig Irish lady on NXT. I saw her and I went, that is so campy, but I get what they're doing. She's got a gimmick. But she always had a smile on her face. She's always really upbeat. And that fucking accent. Oh my God. I melt whenever she gets a promo. I'm like, dude, I'm not doing anything else right now. I'm going to listen to this promo and then I'm going to go do what I got to do. Like, if she's on my TV, I stop everything. So Becky Lynch is definitely on that list. Of course, I'm going to put Trish on there just because, Trish went from having no wrestling ability to becoming her and Lita main eventing a Raw for the women's title. Granted, she lost the title that night, but still, two women had never main evented anything at that point. That was the first time. And, they both looked like $1 million that night, but my heart always belonged to Trish. Yeah. And the fourth one, Jesus, this is going to come out of left field. It really is. But I'm going to throw Bayley on that Mount Rushmore. Only because of the way she reinvented herself.
Right. She's really good at that. And honestly, I was going to say Bayley, but I was like, that's just too many recent female wrestlers to put her on there because, I mean, she has done a lot and she's been somebody to watch for a long time, and I like what she's done.
When she came in as the hugger, the baby face, people loved Bayley. She would get the chance at, I know the match between her and Sasha Banks at NXT TakeOver. I forget what year it was, but they had a last woman standing match for half an hour, and people were chanting, hey Bayley, I want to know if you'd be my girl, and they would do it through the entire. It was pissing Sasha Banks off too. I think that's the night that Sasha Banks lost her title. Bayley became champion. That's when the women's evolution started because the 3 of the 4 horsewomen went from NXT to the main roster, being Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha. But for her to be what she was when she came in, and then to go, you know what? Fuck everything else. Cut her hair, got a carrot haircut, cut the Bayley buddies, the little waving tube men, just cut them to shreds and was like, fuck everybody. I'm not hugging nobody. This is just who I am. And we're starting to see Bayley now coming back into the babyface role just a little bit. They're doing it a little bit at a time. They're not going to go full, diving headfirst into the water.
Right.
They're just kind of teasing it. She's getting, Asuka and Kairi Sane and even Io are kind of turning their back on her and kicked her out of Damage Control, a faction that she created, and then she's being booted out. And she's not even sure if she can trust Dakota Kai at this point. So, but the fact that she's able to reinvent herself, she's awesome on the microphone. She's a great heel. She's an even better babyface. So she is definitely the fourth person on my Mount Rushmore. I'm sure there's probably some that are more worthy of that spot. A couple of honorable mentions I could think of are Layla, who I loved. Definitely not the Bella Twins. I could never stand. I could never stand the Bella Twins.
Yeah, I don't see the appeal of them.
I don't either. I don't get it, and it is what it is.
Dude, Layla for the longest time was the hottest female on the roster. I don't care what anyone says.
Eve Torres is another honorable mention because I was just in love with Eve Torres, especially the storyline where she was dating, quote unquote, Zack Ryder. And she ended up making out with John Cena in the back. And then she kicked him in the dick, like in the ring. I was like, oh, God. Any guy who's been kicked in the dick by a female knows how much that hurts. Oh, yeah. So
I'd say, she married one of the Gracies, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and now she's an instructor with the Gracies.
I think she lives in Colorado now, I think, or something like that. Some crazy state.
I don't remember about it. Like I said, last I saw, she was doing promoting a women's self defense course, whatever. That
Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah.
Based off of jiu-jitsu. I was like, oh, that's freaking awesome. You know, that she's went from, you know, I don't know, scripted grappling to, you know, self-defense grappling, whatever. So
It can be used either way. You know, if you want to be a wrestler or if you want to defend yourself.
Right. I mean,
maybe both.
It's awesome. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I was just nodding. Well, with that being said, that's all the topics that we had for this particular episode. We did have to change some of them because like I said, our other co-host Scuba Steve is not here, but we will definitely have those topics next time he is here. This is what you can expect, maybe a little bit more going forward with the Josh Zodiac Podcast. You want to promote your socials and your podcast as well, Mr. Ben?
Sure. I am Ben De Leon on all the social medias. That includes Facebook, X, which formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. I don't really do much on Twitter. It's one of those things where I just go there just to kind of watch the world burn, basically, and see all the it is so like weird how it is in there. Like you can post "I love kittens" and then people will put, "Oh my god, this guy hates dogs," and it's just it is the weirdest freaking thing. So that's
the world we live in now. Apparently,
I just try to stay away from all that. So you all can follow me there. You all can follow Recycle Corn Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and X also, I guess, if you want, but I got nothing for you there. So every now and then I'll remember like, oh yeah, I can post something on here and I'll do it. But for the most part, it's just Instagram and Facebook. So follow Recycle Corn there.
Yes, definitely follow Recycled Corn.
Go by and wish Scuba a happy birthday. I think he's 47, I think now. So
I think he's 53. I think he's older than we are.
Oh yeah, it's got to be something.
He looks old.
Yeah, when you put your body through that much, you know.
Yeah, no shit. As far as for myself, you can follow me on TikTok, which I will become more active on going forward. Just search the Josh Zodiac, and I will be creating a Facebook page for the podcast here in the next couple of days as well. It'll probably be up before this episode drops, but you can follow that. Hopefully at the Josh Zodiac Podcast, depending on if it's available. I'm pretty sure it will be, but we'll see. And I'll probably also create an email if people that listen have questions I want to, something about or questions about wrestling that they want us to answer, which I'm totally okay with. I know that the Recycle Corn has something similar. They ask questions about us on the podcast. But I want to do something like they ask us our opinion about certain things that are going on. And with WrestleMania season around the corner, there's a lot of what ifs that are going to happen in the next couple of weeks going forward. But definitely follow all of that on TikTok and Facebook. And anything else you want to add, Ben, before we sign off here?
Nah, I can't really think of anything right now because all I'm thinking about is I got to go to work tomorrow, and I'm not looking forward to it. So
yeah, I got to go to work tomorrow too. I still got to iron my shit for work. So with that being said, alongside my buddy Ben De Leon, this is the Josh Zodiac. This is the Josh Zodiac Podcast. Make it so.